We can sort of figure out what the specific function of certain brain regions are through the changes in behavior produced by damage to those different brain areas. For example, Phineas Gage was one of the first well-recorded cases of brain lesion, demonstrating a condition now called dysexecutive syndrome, after he suffered an accident that destroyed his left frontal lobe. This changed his personality and impaired his ability to self-regulate. Losses of self-regulation and self-awareness are common features of many brain lesion studies. It has been found that patients with frontal lobe damage generally perseverate on previously rewarded tasks and often can't shift their thinking when a relevant dimension of a task changes, like we see in the Wisconsin card sorting test, which has participants match cards, but the only hint that they are given as to why they match is just simply being told that a particular match is right or wrong. The test subject needs to figure out the reason the cards matched. The neat part of this experiment is that every so often, the rules used to determine a match change without warning. You just stop making matches using the old rule. Needless to say, this task is tricky for individuals with prefrontal damage, because when patients with a prefrontal lobe damage discover a pattern and start making matches, they are very slow to realize when the rules have changed, and they kind of sort of compulsively stick to what was getting them the right answer earlier. They just can't inhibit a response that was successful in an earlier situation, even though that response is no longer successful in a new situation. This suggests another important role of the frontal cortex, and that is the ability to shift our train of thought. Weakness in this ability to shift one's thinking when certain conditions have changed is a primary feature of dysexecutive syndrome. But it is also seen in other conditions related to the frontal lobe, like ADHD, where blood flow issues from the caudate nuclei that I spoke about in an earlier video interact with a weakness in seeing these kind of contextual shifts, making it difficult to do this thing called transition, making it really hard to start things or change the direction of their behavior when they really get going on something. Impairment in the frontal lobe could also be what's going on in a common autistic spectrum predisposition for what is called vapor lock. Now, I wish I could remember who coined that term, and if you remember, could you please let me know in the comments? But vapor lock is a term was used to describe this tendency of people on the autistic spectrum to get locked in one way of thinking or behaving, often because what is actually happening does not align with what they were thinking or expecting. And now they're kind of unable to shift their thinking and behavior to address the new demands or realities of the situation. So it is not just the frontal lobe failing to notice the conditions that have changed. It's also the input from other areas downstream, like the caudate, that determine the emotional energy one experiences in the moment. And highly emotional energy, feelings that fuel a resistance to change can be tough ones. So why is this important? Well, knowing that you get highly emotional about specific kinds of things and then become inflexible can help you protect yourself by being on the lookout for the situations where these high emotions turn on so that you can observe yourself and the behavior and avoid that embarrassment.